comfortably zoned with the Zig Zag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, down by the lagoon at the 420 studio, across the bay from San Francisco, Northern California. And I'm putting together a terrific show this week, and let me tell you what you're going to be listening to. Before our guest, who is Michelle Rowe, and she's a Bernie Sanders advocate, and I want to clear up a whole bunch of stuff about what's going on in the Democratic Convention, the Democratic Party, and alleged fraud. But after Michelle, we're going to have Butch Haber from Sabre Baseball, and we're going to talk about the organization of Sabre and baseball and baseball board games that we might have played as a kid, and some of us are still playing them. And in the third segment, I have a fella by the name of Jim Friedman, who did a film about one of my boyhood heroes, Marty Glickman. And Marty Glickman is known to a whole bunch of folks. Michelle, you're not really, but you should be, because you got a lot going for you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Zig.
All right. We've been Facebook friends for a while. You're in the comedy community, and most recently, your big passion, aside producing my show with Sue, that's a little inside joke, is Bernie Sanders and changing the system. I'm aboard that 100%. I think the system needs changing. I think Hillary is no more than a very, very, very right-wing Democrat bordering on being a Republican. And Bernie wants, and she gets some money from big businesses, and she's a millionaire. She's supported by millionaires, and we need representation for the people. We need to change the system. Now, are you in agreement with all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been really brought to light with this recent election and the fact that we have social media now. I mean, it's amazing how we can just, post something and tell everyone in Brooklyn where to go down and get, and get angry about these 65,000, maybe more, Democratic voter registrations that were dropped from the rolls. And I really, she's had 8 years to run. To think about her run after being, trounced by Obama in 2008. She's had a lot of time to plan this, and with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who, at your side, who isn't going to succeed in all this carpetbaggery.
Now, how does this happen? You get votes that are registrars who are dropped. How do they know those people are going to vote for Bernie? Is it just by precinct? They have statistics that say overwhelmingly that Bernie would trounce her in that region, and they just go about literally election fraud. Isn't that a felony?
It is a felony, and that's why I'm very upset that Jeff Weaver, who manages Bernie Sanders' campaign, has not filed a lawsuit. I know that there are lawyers that have filed lawsuits in New York against the voter board there, the BOE, the Board of Elections in Brooklyn, and that's going on right now. I don't know how they target these areas. They did it in Arizona as well. They also do this thing where they reduce the number of polling places by 50%, knowing that there's a huge presidential election coming up, but they reduce the number of polling places by I've heard up to 60% of locations. So that's why you saw those long lines in Arizona till midnight. As far as knowing which areas are going to be, strong Bernie supporters, Brooklyn is his hometown, his birthplace. You've got a lot of progressive people there. The chances of dropping, 60 to 120, the estimates go up, 1,000 Dems from the rolls because they're quote unquote inactive. What does that mean? That they didn't vote 4 years ago in the presidential election, or are they just calling them inactive? It's very suspect, and every time this happens, Zig, it falls to the favor of Clinton. In any one of these areas where this fraud has been called out, or these provisional ballots are given out, or people in Central Florida were saying, we ran out of Dem ballots, but here's a Republican ballot. You want to use that? So every time this has happened in these areas, I don't know how they determine it, but it always goes to Clinton. It's never a Bernie win.
How does it stand at this point? Does he feel ripped off? Does Bernie personally feel ripped off?
That's the thing I don't understand is he hasn't come out and said anything. And, at the first few times I thought, okay, he's a great statesman. He knows what he's doing. He's a politician through and through. He's going to choose his battles wisely. Right. This is New York. This is, the birthplace of Bernie Sanders. I don't care that she served 2 terms as their, senator. That was a bought and paid for position. To send both Jeff Weaver, who's his campaign manager, and Jane Sanders, his wife, out onto the media after this thing in New York happened to say things like, if we lose, we'll get behind Hillary. That has happened twice in the last week.
I would have hoped after something like this, he would have said, if we lose, I will continue to run as an independent and split this party if need be, because the Republicans are split, so I don't have to worry about losing to them. It's a matter of losing to you, and let me identify what you are, clearly what you are.
It's almost like they're saying, I don't need to say negative about someone because they speak for themselves. But at this point, when you see the type of people that are turning a blind eye to everything she's done, and that the Clintons are currently under 4 concurrent investigations by federal agencies. Do you think that kind of drama is going to stop the day she sits her ass into the Oval Office? No, it's going to be like a repeat of when they were in the White House before, with the suicides and
what scares me is the head of the person investigating, the FBI guy who's investigating her wiretap thing. And I don't know how much validity this has or is going to have, but he said something the other. He says, we have no timetable to conclude this. How could they not have a timetable?
That's New York. I mean, if they would have done it before New York, I think things would have been different. But there's also another element to this that I want to bring up, if you'll indulge me, is that there's a person who works for the New York City Board of Elections who was suspended. Her name is Diane Haslett-Rudiano. She was just suspended over controversies that stem from Democrats being purged off the rolls in Brooklyn. So there's this bizarre connection that she has to the Clintons. She had a rundown rat-infested brownstone in Brooklyn. She didn't even have on the market, and it was sold to a person, Hillary Clinton's, a woman named Nina Lowey, who, the daughter of this woman who works for Hillary. We can't say that the two are not linked at all. And so she's been suspended by the New York City Board of Elections, this woman. And she also has been a huge, huge advocate of voting machines, electronic voting machines, since 2013. So, again, I'm not the expert here. I just read a lot. I read everything I get my hands on, and I kind of have a bullshit meter. And this is just looking, it's all kind of looking weird. There's silos. I mean, there's a silo right now of Elizabeth Warren going out kind of stumping or going after people. Then you've got the silo of Hillary and Bill.
And you got
and
Biden
then you got the silo of
out.
Bernie.
And you got
What's
Biden
that?
coming out because he's upset because his administration has been tagged. And you got Hillary on some levels disassociating herself with Obama. And don't get me wrong, Obama's great here, great there, great in every way, except that he drones, keeps wars going, made a deal with Monsanto for the GMOs. All those things, and sometimes she sides with him, and sometimes she doesn't. In the debate, for instance, she made an impassioned case for Israel and the Gaza and why they're defending this and that, why the Israelis are doing what they're doing, yet she failed to say that her administration has been called to task for a number of things. She's not with Israel. The Obama administration is not with Israel, and she made it sound like she was, and Bernie said nothing during the debate. And Bernie's defense of the his gun control thing, was horrible. He should have been better prepared to say something beside the NRA gave me a D- rating. Well, they also gave him some bucks and supported him, and that falls under the category of special interest, and that disappointed me greatly about Bernie Sanders. Now, is he head and tails better than Hillary and the rest of them? Of course he is. He's a human being. And which brings us, everybody's going to be disappointed with whoever it is as president on one level or another, because we all come from special interests in our heart. Some of us care about the economy, some of us care about Israel, some of us care about this, that, and the other thing. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be disappointed in the Sanders presidency. And as Bernie says, one president can't do this alone. This is going to take a revolution. I see people stepping up in areas they never would have stepped up before. I see millennials stepping up and being very articulate and getting action together, getting calls to action out there. It kind of reminds me of the way my mom and dad talked about FDR, about the things people were willing to sacrifice and do just to have this great guy run I think they let him run for 4 terms or something.
Absolutely, he died in office in his 4th term.
Yeah, I honestly think that they're trying to scare us. They're trying to scare us to get in line behind Hillary. If it's not Trump going out there saying, I welcome a debate with Hillary, that's because he knows that even her polling numbers show that she can't beat him. Bernie, in the polling, Bernie would win the general against Trump, and he would win the general against Cruz. Hillary can't say that in both instances.
Well, the latest poll that I read has Thomas Dewey defeating Truman, so you can't always go by these.
Get that joke, then if you get that joke, I got a bridge I want to sell you. I honestly think I'm not going to be disappointed in the Sanders presidency, but there's just too much stuff that's up in the air right now. It's almost too much to take in. The fact that 6 months ago we were like, wouldn't it be great to have a Sanders-Warren ticket? Well, right. She hasn't endorsed him. She hasn't endorsed Hillary, but she hasn't endorsed
I don't understand that, and I don't understand why she didn't come up a year or 2 years ago and say, it's my time.
Well, because she's most effective kicking Wall Street ass and taking bankster names. She's not going to be effective.
That's exactly what Sanders is promising to do, and she's had the experience in doing that. She'd make a wonderful vice president, and
I just feel like
God forbid anything happen.
Yeah. I think she needs to stay in the Senate. I think she needs to be Speaker. She needs to do something where she can actually get those votes needed to pass all the great things that we need implemented. And by the way, there's like 400 plus Senate seats up this year. It's not our job just to elect Bernie. It's our job to...
Absolutely. He can't get anything done if we don't get the Senate and the Congress. There's no way in the world he can get anything done. So the whole idea is they go in... The revolution should be a tandem to get any Republican out of there. And while we're at it, you're a woman. I can't speak for women. How is it that your sisterhood could even think about voting for a Republican, given all the strides that were made years ago with Roe v. Wade and the threat of reversing all of that, and it is being reversed throughout the Midwest. Planned Parenthood is being closed down. How do you see women?
Roe v. Wade is still the law, so I say that to you. Roe v. Wade is still the law. As far as women who are Republicans,
it's the enforcement of the law and the availability of if a woman in Indianapolis has to, or outside someplace in Indiana has to drive 400 miles to go to a clinic to get some advice, it really isn't working. If counties throughout the states are closing down these clinics, so is Roe v. Wade losing its effectiveness? I'll ask you as a woman.
Here's the thing. Roe v. Wade has been legal since I've been able to get pregnant. I was like 12 or 13 years old when it went into law. Okay, so it's always been legal. I remember my mom and I going out and going door to door, working for McGovern when I was in the 6th grade, talking about this with people. So whenever I meet a woman who is anti-choice, it's like watching someone self-sabotage, someone self-loathing who doesn't really relate to the struggle that women have gone through. Someone who, until it happens to them, it doesn't matter. Until you have a gay cousin or son, LGBT rights don't matter. Until your friend dies because they got a back alley abortion, then the legal and safe right to choose doesn't matter. I've seen it over and over again. And when it comes to this, I get really sad. I mean, I get really sad watching people going up and endorsing people going up who are running in the GOP and then having forced, at knife point to endorse Trump after he
have to be a knife point.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
really,
as down as everybody
seems
to be
self-loathing I'm talking
Trump.
about. That self-loathing where Chris Christie gets up and endorses somebody who basically told him he's an absentee governor to his face. So when I think about the right to choose, we live in a bubble here, Zig. We live in a liberal bubble. We don't know what goes on. But again, it comes down to white males trying to control women's bodies. Because we're a threat.
I don't understand how they can do it without the permission of the women. It's just
the women are just parroting what their husbands, sisters, brothers, fathers have told them for years. I was able to sit at the dinner table when I was 7 and discern between my dad saying, "Don't let the liberals into Congress," and my mom saying, "Love thy neighbor." Okay, you either get it or you don't.
Right.
You either parrot what your dad, brother, uncle, father tells you, or you think on your own. And so I just don't think they think on their own.
Most people learn to think on Sunday mornings at the pulpit, and they get
like
an awful lot. Right, that's all they're getting is, and they get a lot of subliminal stuff from the church, and church, mosque, synagogue. They're all equally damaging in their own way. not equally damaging, but damaging in their own way. And I think that's where people get it. Subliminally, that's, they hear the message, and the message from the church is toxic. And the truth of the matter is, we not only need separation of church and state, we need separation of church and humanity. So, and we also need to give up this age-old craziness that churches, synagogues, and mosques shouldn't be taxed. If you tax them,
that's like the NFL not getting taxed, but I won't go there because I know you are a sports guy. But what
did you say? I'm sorry. The last sentence you say. I'm a sports guy, but what did you say?
The NFL hasn't paid taxes since 1940.
Well, they are no longer. You're right, and they have their nonprofit status was reversed.
Why were they ever a nonprofit status? Why were they ever aligned to a Catholic charity?
They had some. Why does baseball have an antitrust thing?
No.
Why not an antitrust? Why does baseball have regulations that I can't think of the word? They're exempt from stuff that is craziness. Sports gets an unfair whole card with stuff like that. To answer your question about the NFL, they had several NFL foundations that they were running their money through, and they. You have to remember the owners are multi-billionaires. They're in charge of who gets taxed. The government doesn't come to them. They come to the government when they need them. It's gotten to that point where big business is controlling the government.
Yep.
And the church is controlling.
You're right.
The business.
NFL is big business. The church is business. Yep.
Right. It's the three. It's the unholy trinity, and big business, government, and the church. And it's hard. And let's just say organized religion. When I say the church, it's not just the church. It's all of them. And it's not just in this country. It's the whole worldwide, where you could have the Catholic Church stopping contraception in Africa, stopping the spread. They could curtail the spread of AIDS, and they won't do that, as an example. So don't get me started. We could both get started on stuff like this.
That's the thing that I think. Let's loop it back. That's the thing that resonated with me about Bernie. Is it weird that he's Jewish? Is it weird that he was a carpenter? He was a carpenter before he became mayor.
Yes, he was a carpenter.
When I hear messages of kindness, and we're all in this together, and let's help each other out, that resonates with the kid in me. That before I understood how corrupt the church was, I understood the basic, message of, when your neighbor is hungry, feed them. When they're naked, clothe them.
Of the Rabbi Jesus. And that's another thing that gets me. The Catholics are more than happy to round up all the descendants of the Rabbi Jesus and help take them to concentration camps. I don't understand a lot of it. There are questions out there. But you're right. The tenets, the teaching of the Rabbi, before it became an imaginary character to people, because all of that stuff was mythology. It's all silliness. But but the teachings are wonderful. You can't deny the teachings.
Yeah, the teachings were probably, they believe that he learned everything. Most of what he learned he learned in India, and that was just all stricken from the Bible. That he learned about reincarnation. He learned about the fact that we are timeless. Our souls are timeless. We shouldn't be in feet.
Let's say this. Let's make it clear. The Bible is an edited version of hundreds of submissions. Years after.
Is anything written by a woman in that book? Come on. Did Mary Magdalene get a chapter? Probably not.
Did Mary? There's a lot of questions about Mary Magdalene. you might ask.
Yeah,
But
she was, you know what, she's the holy
bullshit,
rebel. She was a holy rebel, and I love that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You love which woman?
I love both Marys. I got to tell you, I love Mary Magdalene, and I love Mother Mary. I think they were both rebels. Absolutely. They were rebels. They were not the especially Mother Mary. She was not the, yes, she was loving, all of that, but she was a radical in many ways.
Are you still practicing Catholic, Michelle?
No, I was raised a Methodist, and I haven't been to church since 1979.
Oh, okay. Because the Mother Mary's thing.
I know, but Mother Mary to me is among my saints and angels. She's in my Ascended Masters. There's a reason that her iconography is all over the world. There's a reason I drove through New Mexico and couldn't stop seeing Guadalupe and wondering why I'm attracted to this Guadalupe statue painting. There's a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been said there's a reason for everything, and there's a reason you're on this morning to enlighten us about Bernie and all of it. I really enjoy your company. I hope you'll come back again.
I would like to come back. And let's get Bernie or bust trending again, please.
Let's get
Bernie or bust trending again.
Okay. Well, let's do that. How do you feel? Do you feel confident at all in the next few weeks about what's happening with Bernie? Do you see an upsurge in young people coming out? And
I see that we need to get on the phones today, tomorrow, and Sunday for Pennsylvania. You can go to BerniePB.com. That's Bernie Phone Bank, BerniePB.com. Sign up for a shift. Just start calling. There's a lot of people who would love to hear from us, people with landlines, The young people are out there. They're grabbing their, collateral, putting on their Bernie T-shirts, and they're getting out there and going door to door. And they're smart. They know when to engage and share the message and when to say, okay, thanks for your time. So I think it's important that, nobody's noticing this, but Pennsylvania has a high amount of delegates, almost as many delegates as New York, pledged delegates. So let's all, if we have the time, and if we even don't have the time, there's something you can do called the BernieFriendFinder.com, where you go out and reach out to your friends and friends of friends who live in Pennsylvania via Facebook to remind them to get out and vote for Bernie in the primary.
Can you clarify something, Michelle? Pledged delegates, can they change their mind at the convention if it gets that far?
No, pledged delegates are what we're going for during the primaries and caucuses. Those are divvied up in some antiquated way. We only do it in the Democratic Party, I think. Actually, we do it in both parties. The superdelegates are the things that are not set in stone, so it doesn't matter that Hillary front-loaded 400 and something superdelegates. Again, every woman in Congress gave her their superdelegate vote last June, except Elizabeth Warren. That, again, to me sounds like, you're either with me or you're against me. Now, you can change your superdelegate vote anytime before the convention in July. So, as an example, at this time last year, in 2008, Hillary had quite a few superdelegates, many more than Obama. Between May,
she was in the lead all through June, from what I remember.
Yep. And all of a sudden, one by one, these superdelegates started pledging their superdelegate vote over to Barack Obama, the senator from Illinois. And then she went away and got a great little gig called Secretary of State.
That compromise.
So superdelegates, they're not set in stone. So when you see those polls and stuff that factor in that number, they should be ashamed of themselves. Right now, the difference right now is something like 213 pledged delegates between Hillary and Bernie, and he just garnered over 100 pledged delegates in New York, and she garnered 133. So she may have,
it
quote
wasn't
unquote,
really a horrible defeat after all.
Yeah, it seems like a horrible defeat because you know why? Because CNN and all those channels keep driving it home that we were defeated. Well, you know, we lost Missouri by 1,600 votes, but that didn't mean that Bernie got any less pledged delegates than Hillary. They both got like the same exact amount. I think it was 34 or some, I can't remember. But the point is that this is just a fakakta system. And I think that's one thing that Bernie and Elizabeth can fix when they get in there. Time for another amendment to the Constitution.
Well, Bernie will fix the fakakta stuff more than Elizabeth. She'd have first learn that what's fakakta mean, and he'd have a long talk. He'd invite her to a seder. They'd sit. They'd
have a little nosh. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Elizabeth Warren is down with that word. Believe me.
Oh, you better believe it. She's a fighter. I love her. She's gonna. Again, if he chooses her, or if he's successful, he can't help but choose her for vice president, and that would be terrific. So, who else would be a candidate, do you think, for Bernie?
You know, it's kind of weird. I'm really on board with Tulsi Gabbard. She's this young Democrat congresswoman from Hawaii. She actually gave up her seat as co-chair of the DNC just to endorse Bernie. What does that say about our DNC? So she had to work alongside Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is the henchwoman for Hillary. And she stepped down from that role so she could endorse Bernie. She's also a veteran. She's a veteran. She's endorsed Bernie for his presidential bid, and I don't know. I feel there's a place for her in his Senate, or you know, somewhere. You know, but wouldn't it be great to see this guy and this young vet up there as VP and vice, you know, and president?
Well, young is so. I still think Elizabeth Warren is young. I've reached that age.
She is, but I feel like she could just be. I really don't understand why. I don't know. I really don't think the role of vice president can. It does wield power, but does it wield as much power as being in the Senate or Speaker? I don't know.
Well, it does. It would set you up to run next time pretty well.
Yep.
She could be Secretary of State too.
That's a grueling job that I think really corrupts people down to their soul, and I think the proof of that is Hillary Clinton.
I don't know if she was corrupted beforehand. I think the system corrupts. No, seriously, the system corrupts, as witnessed by the other extreme, Ken Starr and his craziness against the Clintons, which was incredibly nuts and maniacal.
That was over the top nuts, but.
Right, so you can see where she's the kind of person that would fight fire with fire, and you can't really blame her from that standpoint. She had to see the game she's in. But I don't see much of a difference between Hillary and the Republican Party.
I mean, if you look at a chart, Hillary falls under the, she's a neocon. She's a neoconservative. She's not a progressive.
But not
Bernie
in any way. Not in any way. Except women's rights. I will give her this. Women's rights, she's a progressive. No question.
Yeah, but Google how many women came after her husband for rape, and she in some instances, put together the legal team to discredit them. So what kind of person can say that they're for women's rights when they go repeatedly? It's almost like the douchebag name of that generation is Bill. You got Bill Cosby, Bill O'Reilly, and Bill Clinton. I don't know.
I love that.
I'm sorry to Bill Maher, but, he's only 60.
Well, no, and he's not. Bill Maher is a very, very bright, good voice of sardonic humor and pragmatism that in the spirit of Colbert, and he's really good, and I appreciate him an awful lot.
I do too.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Again, terrific. We'll do this again if you're up for it.
Yep.
And go from there. I'm going to end the episode the way I end most of them that aren't sports related. I want to implore everybody out there to keep your dreams wet, keep your humor dry, keep your kids out of military recruiting stations, and off the laps of clerics that wear dresses. And that is so simple, yet beyond the grasp of many of you, according to what's in the papers. Most of all, keep on keeping on. Thanks again, Michelle.
Right on. Thanks, Vic.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco in the northern part of the state. I'm just almost in heaven today. I have two guests and the sponsor of the whole thing in studio at the same time. Of course, the guests are by phone, so we are bi-coastal, and from Florida, the Rose brothers, Martin and Bernard. Mert and Barn, how are you guys?
Good, Ralph. Very good.
Good. Barn?
Yeah, we just had a great time at Mert's daughter's wedding.
Yeah. Oh, you both sound exactly alike. This is going to be absolutely easy for me. I gave Mert a sincere mazel tov on 3 levels. You just retired from AP. How many years did you work at AP?
42, Ralphie. 42.
Wow.
Yeah.
And anybody out there that doesn't know me, doesn't know Mert, doesn't know Barn, you're my oldest friend. I mean, 19. We were in first grade, maybe second grade together. Miss Ross was first grade?
Second.
I don't even remember who was in first grade, but I was there about 4 years. That's why all those first grades run together. And Barn is 2 years younger. I was telling Tally Olson, who makes soap. Tally makes glycerin soap. So I was telling Tally that I got to hear Barn do scales when he was about 5, and Mert and I were about 7. I got you practiced your scales, and we were in the bedroom talking baseball and playing baseball cards. And you became a jazz musician. Later on, you're still playing. How cool is that?
It's been very enjoyable. I didn't play for a long time, but it's been a lot of fun. No question.
Yeah, and back then you were in groups, and and now you're back at it in your our senior years. I mean, we're not growing old. And remember, the new 69 is 67.
There you go.
We're going to live forever if we just keep it up this way and go backwards. So you retired, Mert, and you spent 42 years, most of them on Staten Island, commuting into the city.
Yeah.
And now via North Carolina, where you stayed for a little while.
Right.
You're in Jacksonville, Florida. And,
That's right. That's right.
I want to hear, you'd never lived in the South outside of basic training in the Air Force, right?
That's true. That's correct.
What was North Carolina like for you, living in the South after all those years living in New York? You were just there. I mean, how did it hit you, the culture shock?
Well, I was only in North Carolina for 3 months, and the area I was in was a suburb of the Raleigh area, in what they call the Triangle there. And it's funny, the people there, and I'm finding in Jacksonville as well, most people, I haven't found very many natives. I mean, everybody is from the North, especially here. Real estate persons from New Jersey. The doctor was born in Brooklyn. My next door neighbor's from New Jersey. The only guy, the guy in Sears, I think we had to buy a washer dryer for the house. He was a local guy, one of the few. But everybody else that we've come in contact with business-wise is from the North. They're from either Long Island or New York or New Jersey. And North Carolina was similar, where I was, in a town called Cary. A lot of people were placed there from somewhere else, and it was like a real suburban area where I was. Wasn't used to so few people in the area. Here in Jacksonville, it's very busy. A lot of building, a lot of traffic.
Really?
North Carolina, where I was not that way. It was quiet. It was easy to get around. But of course, you have to drive everywhere. Where in New York, you really didn't drive anywhere. People that work in Manhattan don't drive in. Everybody takes public transportation, so that's a little different. It's a lot different.
Well, it reminds me of the Yogi Berra line. Nobody goes to that restaurant because it's crowded. Well, people don't drive. Some people drive because, as Bernie will tell you, the streets of Manhattan are pretty clogged up. Bernie, you did some cabs.
Clogged up with cabs and delivery people, and but the normal person does not drive into Manhattan. Maybe you get some executives where the company pays for a parking space. To park in Manhattan, it costs more than most people pay to live in their house for a month. I mean, it's insane. So just it's not possible. It's just not possible.
Well, I lived in
the pace. Address the pace. Hey, you went through going downtown, taking the ferry in from Staten Island, which is a beautiful ride, by the way. Did you get to enjoy that over the years, back and forth?
No.
Okay.
Frankly, no.
Okay.
No.
I'm thinking about, I've been away from New York for so long.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the pleasurable things. Remember school outings? We take the Staten Island ferry and go, and how much fun it wasn't fun.
Yeah, that's different. When you have to do it every day, twice a day,
right.
it's a lot different,
Right. Okay.
Plus, I had from where I lived, I had to take a bus to the ferry, then the ferry, then the subway. It's like an hour and a half back and forth, 2 times a day. And then if you want to take the express bus to avoid the ferry, you could still do that, but you still got to switch to the subway. Express buses, people that take the express bus, $13 a day. I mean, that's a lot of money. So, you make your choices. Live with it.
And that's living in the city. Imagine living in Connecticut or way out.
Those people have to deal with the commuter lines. They got
Metro North.
The Metro North, which goes to Connecticut and up all the way to Poughkeepsie. And the people on Long Island, the Long Island Railroad goes all the way out on Long Island. and it's the same thing for them. You know, you just have to, something you have to deal with. You want to live in New York, you know, and work in the city and make decent money. That's just the stuff that you have to deal with every single day, day in and day out. Yeah.
Okay, Mert, all the time we've been back together again as buds. We don't talk politics much. Barn and I have talked politics on these airways over the years. Let me ask you about, we got a big day in the New York primaries. You got Bernie and you got Hillary, and I know how Barn feels. You want to just, whatever it is that's on your mind about?
Truthfully, I don't like to talk about politics that much, but I don't particularly, and I think I'm in the majority of people in this country. I don't like any of the candidates, to tell you the truth. None of them. But, you know, you have to make a choice. Now, it seems to me that, like, the young people are going for Bernie because of all this talk where, you know, free college, this and that. I mean, you know, he's making statements that there's no possibility of the stuff that he's saying is ever going to happen. You know, I mean,
well, you know, if they get the Congress back,
that's it.
With him,
there's no possibility of anybody doing anything without some nice long coattails and getting the Senate back for sure. That's
right.
You know,
that's true.
And no matter who gets elected, because it's just stalemate once again. And that's what I was talking about. The whole thing that with Hillary is it's status quo. I've always felt it's just. I mean, she's got a lot of nice things to say, but in the end, I always felt she was status quo, and she wouldn't have the coattails that if a real revolution, if you will, were to take place in the voting booth, that change could really happen. And that's how I got started with Bernie, and I'm into everything that he's talking about. I mean, we need a major change. I don't see Hillary doing that.
No, I don't either. And as a matter of fact, Hillary is part of the problem, the way I see it. She's to the right, so far to the right of Bernie that it's almost like in the old days when a Republican was really just a Democrat and the Democrat was really just a Republican. She's just right in the middle. And Bernie's a Democrat. Bernie's a socialist. And when I say socialist, all the good things that happen from socialism. Schools, libraries, police force, fire department. You know, it gets
He's talking about all those things, all the right things, and how to go about, you know, what needs to be done. And she's picked up on some of his things because she was losing votes. I mean, that tells you right there who's really talking about the right stuff.
And she still is. I posted a poll this morning, results of a poll where he's like within 2% nationally of her.
I saw that.
And that's, so we hope for the best on that. Let me take a look.
She's got about a 10% lead in New York from what I understand.
She does?
Yeah.
You say?
Yeah.
It's still double digits, so the returns will start coming in about an hour.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, yeah, we will. Let me take an official commercial. Tally is here, and Tally makes glycerin soap. Tell us about the soap you make, Tally, and how it all came about.
Well, about 2 years ago, I found a kit that was in my mother's house, and I thought, well, I'll get around to playing around with that at some point. Sounds like fun. Well, I finally did, and I was talking it over with my longtime friend and roommate, Gil, about making the soap, and he was really excited about it, so that just compelled me to go ahead and get started, and I've been doing it for about a year, and I love it. It's a lot of fun, and other people get to enjoy it. It's inexpensive. The artistic part of it is super fun and endless, and like I said, a lot of people enjoy it, too, so that's how that started.
What are the soaps made out of? It's pour and dry. Give me some ideas of the fragrances and the soaps themselves.
They're vegetable-based. Some are honey-based. There's some I use that have goat's milk, coconut. Those are all really great moisturizers. There's all kinds of manufactured fragrance oils out there that are great. There's essential oils, which are ideal. They're a little bit more expensive, but you can use the combinations. The colors are endless. I mean, it just goes on. And there's 1,000 different molds to choose from, so it's fun. It's great.
All right. If anyone wants to see pictures of Tally's soaps, they can't smell the fragrances, unfortunately. But they can see the pictures on Facebook. Tell us about your Facebook page.
Well, it's really not. It's on Facebook, and I just show photographs and give a description. And if people are interested in asking questions about the soaps, they can email me at tally.olson@yahoo.com.
Beautiful. And I thank you for dropping by. Thank you for sponsoring the entire network, which wasn't even a network. The last time Barn and Mert were on the show, I was just a guy doing podcasts. And all of a sudden, with Tally's help, basically, this became somewhat of a group of folks that do podcasts, mostly baseball, but other things as well, band together. I have an internet. It's comfortablyzonedradio.com, and we post a show a day. 4 or 5 baseball shows a week, and we talk to players, coaches, managers, sports writers, authors, anything to do with baseball, fans who are back in the day, fans who are current. Have 4 or 5, like I say, 4 or 5 different shows. We have New York baseball, past, present, and future. I have a show with author Peter Golenbach, remembering Dynasty and Bums, and a lot more. And we do a weekly show, Peter and I. I do a show with Peter Trunk, New York City baseball. Well, that's the one I do with Wayne Unger. With Peter Trunk, I do when the Giants and Dodgers played in New York. And we talk about the old days of Ebbets Field and the Polo Grounds. And these two guys are old enough to remember those days. So why don't you give me your memories of before the Giants and Dodgers left New York, Mert?
Wow.
Favorite memory?
Favorite memory?
Yeah.
Well, a little difficult because I was so young when the Dodgers won the World Series finally in 1955. I remember it was exciting. I remember because they were always losing to the Yankees year after year, and it was funny. My dad was a Giants fan, and my mother's family, came from Brooklyn. We were born in Brooklyn before we moved to Queens. So yeah, I remember that excitement of 50. I can remember my father watching the Giants in 1954 on the little black and white TV. I can remember that because he was the Giants fan, and they hadn't won in a long time as well. And I remember Dusty Rhodes was the big name. I can remember that pretty vividly. And that it's hard to remember a lot back there. I remember going to a twilight doubleheader at Ebbets Field. My uncle took me to I guess I don't know if it was the first time we went. I can't remember if I had been there before or not. I think we were spending the summer in Rockaway. You know, we had like a little rental for the summer at the beach. And my uncle lived in Brooklyn, and we went to a twilight doubleheader. I could have been against the Cubs. It's hard to remember that part of it, but you know, it was a very exciting place. So much smaller than you know the ballparks are today. So much more, you know, fan friendly, closer to the field. You know, I think that's sort of how the Wilpons built Citi Field. You know, because the owner was such a big Dodger fan. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and sadly, he has no real, pays no homage to the Mets at that field. He's a
right. The Jackie Robinson Rotunda. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Where does that come in with the Mets? I don't. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, there's nothing. The guys on the radio here that are Met fans, they're where's the statue of Tom Seaver? I don't see it. You know, where is it?
Bill Hodges should have a statue holding.
They don't have any. They have nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Just crazy. Now, Barn, I don't want to put you on the spot before the Giants and Dodgers left New York. So I want your take on early Mets, because by then you were old enough to appreciate baseball. And what's your take on early Mets?
Oh, sure. Well, you know, actually I'm 4 years younger than you guys, not 2. So.
Oh, I thought you were 2 years. You're my brother's age.
Yeah, I think he's actually a year older than me. I was born in 51. So,
oh, okay. Yeah. That's okay.
So Mert's 4 years and 3 months older than me. So I remember, because I was only 7 when the Dodgers and Giants left, how everybody was insane. They hated O'Malley. They hated the Dodgers. But I was too young to appreciate that. And that's how because I'm loyal. Everything I do, I think I'm loyal, and I didn't know any better, so I stayed a Dodgers fan. Mert did.
Okay.
Mert had it with them when they left. Am I right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, there it is. Now, when the Mets came in, to answer your question, I mean, we both kind of became Met fans, but they were always my second team, where they became Mert's first team. And for the
my first
for the
team,
few years,
Giants became my second team, and you and I, the Giants and Dodgers still have a terrific rivalry.
They do
out here.
Yeah.
It's one of those miracles. It was horrible, but it seems to have worked out. I've almost forgiven the Giants for moving. They have a gem of a ballpark out here. You can't believe what a...
Yeah, I'd love to see it, yeah.
Oh, wow. It is beautiful. So I guess things worked out, and all's well that ends well. Your daughter got married, Mert.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Oh, very, very cool. I mean, story there was that... They met as freshmen, and they were freshmen in college, like seven years ago, and they started dating their freshman year of college, and he was in the ROTC, which I don't want to get into this with you, but. You know,
no.
I know how you feel about the military.
What it is. We were both in. We were both in.
Yeah, we were both in. So in any case, he got through all that. I think there was 15 guys that started, and if I'm not mistaken, only 3 finished and actually, you know, became second lieutenants. So now he's a first lieutenant, and he's up for captain, and he's stationed at Fort Knox in Kentucky at the moment.
Okay, that can't be bad on all levels.
Right, real good family, nice family from Pennsylvania. They went to school in Emmitsburg, Maryland, And as a matter of fact, that's where they had the church service on their school chapel in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And the reception was about 10 miles north up in Gettysburg at one of the fancy hotels there. So
that's where the picture comes from. You put on Facebook, Barn. You in front of the cool.
Right.
Cool. And I saw a picture. Your daughter's lovely. The look on both your faces was brought some tears to my eyes.
Yeah,
holy shit.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's in the planning for so long, and then finally the day comes, and you know, it was just great. Everything went according to plan. So,
what do you plan to do in Jacksonville to keep you interested, to keep your brain alive in retirement?
He bought the baseball package.
I haven't. I did that. I had to buy the MLB baseball package so I could see the games, you know. I don't know this. I'm from New York. I watch games all the time. Get all the Yankee games, all the Met games, you know. I come here, I get nothing. So wait a second, you know. So, you know, if you buy the sports package, now they actually do have the Mets station on the sports package. However, when the game comes on, you don't get it. You don't get the game. You know, you get the pregame, you get the postgame, you get all the stuff that they have on, you know, their New York sports highlights and all whatever else they have on the station. But I guess the game itself, they're not allowed to televise outside of the home area. So, you know, I went out for the first time.
Have a thing where MLB Game Day, where they televise every game unless it's in your area, which this.
Yeah, so I went out. I bought the MLB package where you can watch every single game all the time. Now, which I also found that here in Jacksonville, they black out the Marlins and they black out the Rays as well. But since I bought the sports package for an extra $10, they have the Marlins games and the Rays games on the sports package. So for the 18 times that the Mets play the Marlins, I watch it on the Marlins channel. All the other games I can get on the MLB channel. So, you know, if you got a couple of bucks to spend, you can watch whatever you want, you know.
Good. And it's a good tradition because both your uncle, both you guys, of course, your uncle was the famous, not famous, but well-renowned sports writer Murray Rose. And were it not for Murray Rose, you and I would not have the passion that we've taken into our lifetime, all three of us.
That could very well be.
He would get seats. We were up, sitting right down behind the bench a lot of times. And in those days, the teams gave out tickets to the sports writers and said, here, and he's always taking care of his nephews. He wrote Olympic book,
great.
And he edited a magazine that you guys may not even have anymore, and I think I still have it in my archives, and my archives have dwindled over the years, but he edited a magazine on the All-Star Game, and it was in about 64, 63 maybe, and it was just so incredibly well done. You have to remember, this is before the internet. You'd have box scores of each game. You'd have rundowns. You'd have pictures of every All-Star game in history. You remember that? You remember that magazine, guys?
Yeah, I do.
I believe I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But his main thing was boxing. He was in his time. He was one of the top boxing writers in the country, and he was the lead boxing writer for the AP for many years in the 40s and 50s probably, and you could a lot of times, boxing was on TV all the time back then. The Friday night fights with Don Dunphy and all that.
Don Dunphy, Gillette.
Yeah, Gillette, right. Yeah, you could always see in the first row, when sometimes the camera, when they're up against the ropes, you could see the bald guy with the glasses and the cigarette hanging out of his mouth in the first row with the teletype machine going.
Yeah.
That was him.
I remember.
I think I still have a picture of.
You would point that out when we were kids. I also remember two things. IL-72647.
Oh my God! How do you remember that? My old phone number from Jackson Heights.
That was your old phone number. Well, and one other thing. The day the music died, do you remember that, where you were when you and I found out about it in your kitchen?
I remember it was, I
remember I was there, and we just looked at each other.
Yeah.
I think we might have even been in junior high school then.
Yeah, it was junior high school. It was. Yeah.
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 That,
it was, 1959. So
got that. And of course, the last three things. I remember the New York Knickerbockers in a triple overtime win against the Knicks.
I remember being there with you. Yeah.
Right. Well, we were kids and we couldn't even call home. It was triple overtime. Our parents were going to worry and all that. Willie Knowles and Johnny Green got the rebound and beat Wilt in his rookie year. And, of course, I've told this story before. You and I, Mert, played hooky from high school, 1964, to go to opening day at Shea Stadium. You didn't play hooky. You had permission. I didn't have permission. And your dad was working swing shifts, and he was home during the day. My mother ran into him on the street, and your dad goes, "Kids have a nice day for a game." My mother goes, "What?" He says, "Oh, they're opening day at Shea Stadium. They got 19 of them. 9 from they all went down to have a great day at the." And my mother's going, She was not a happy woman by any means. Not that we went to the game. Not that it's that when she said, when I came in, she says, "Did you have a nice day at school?" I didn't say, "No, I didn't go to school. I went to the game." Signed a note. "I'm sorry, everybody played away." I said, "Oh, it was a great day." Whack.
Whack.
So the idea was, don't be a Richard Nixon. If something goes wrong, cop to it. And
there you go.
That was the early lesson.
That's funny.
So it's been many years. I'm glad you're retired. I'm glad you're out of the city. I'm glad you're on this segment, because on this segment, we're going to, on this show, the third segment, I interviewed a guy who did a movie about Marty Glickman. And you and I, Mert, Glickman was such a major part of our broadcasting lives, and what a hero. We were, Jewish guys growing up, Marty Glickman. The movie tells the whole story about the Olympics in 36 when he didn't get to run, and I think I might have even mentioned to Jim Friedman, who did the film. I don't remember in the interview if I told him on air or off, that Marty Glickman did a Newtown High School MSL, what was it, the City Championships of New York in soccer.
Oh,
Marty Glickman.
Wow.
Do you not remember that?
I remember Newtown High School being very good in soccer back then. I do.
Yeah, but they played in the city
it.
championships. I don't know if they won or lost, but I remember going and watching Marty Glickman announce the game. He would do all kinds of stuff, high school football. This guy was just the quintessential announcer. And so I'm going to interview that. And the second, right after this, the segment is a fellow named of Butch Haber. And we talk about SABRA, the baseball statistical organization that people belong to, that put a new slant on statistics. And we talk about gaming, board gaming, baseball board gaming. Remember playing All-Star Baseball, Mert?
Gee whiz. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I played it that much. To tell you the truth.
Well, that was one of my games to keep my mind going. And before I end the segment, I want to ask you, what was your favorite book, early book that brought you to baseball? You know, is it the Jackie Robinson story, Vegas Wreck? You know, do you remember reading it?
I remember reading both of those, actually, at the time.
Can anybody here play this game?
Right. That could have been written any one of those 50 years, you know.
That was good, too, yeah.
Yes, that was Jimmy Breslin.
There's a new book on Bill Veeck a couple of years ago that came out that was very good also, just
really?
recently. Yeah. Maybe 3-4 years ago, I think. I read that, too. It's very good.
Good,
more comprehensive, much more comprehensive than the early one.
Oh, really? I will look for that because that guy was incredibly special. As was Branch Rickey. Anything you could find on Branch Rickey, what a hero for baseball. Baseball's one true genius was Branch Rickey. So, Barn, Bernie today. Barn and Bernie should be happy today if all he needs to do is stay alive, the way I look at it, because he could do nothing. If he wins in New York, he can do nothing but build some momentum.
Absolutely.
And, but staying alive.
He's got to do well. I don't know that he has to win, but it would be. He came back and won in Michigan when he was down 12 points like 2 days earlier or something. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. If you've seen the crowds that he's been drawing everywhere that he goes, I mean, it's really catching on across the whole country. And if he could pull out a win today, he's got a real shot to do the whole thing.
And it may not seem like much, but when you take into consideration that Hillary is really one of them, one of the 1%ers. And we need someone who isn't a millionaire to represent us. That's all. And, it doesn't, you would think if this were 40 years ago, of course you need people to represent us, but there's like 123 millionaires in Congress, and that's bullshit, the way I look at it.
No, I agree. I just don't want to get a situation where you have a Democrat who just gives up too much to the Republicans. I mean, I don't know how in his mind Bill Clinton played ball with them to take down Glass-Steagall. That's what caused the whole freaking thing. Now, it started with Reagan, and it certainly ended with Bush. But Glass-Steagall was the pivotal thing that really, and it's what the Republicans wanted. And he played ball with them. And that never should have happened. And that's what I see with Hillary, the same thing with Bill. And maybe I shouldn't do that because they're two separate people. But, I don't know, the Clintons have a little baggage all the time, don't they?
Well, they do. And what really gets me about Billary, if you will, is their ecological record. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And if you look at it...
Yes, she supports fracking, which Bernie does not.
Right. the one thing about Bernie, and I was talking about somebody about that, I was very, very disappointed in his NRA stance and that he took money. From national. That it didn't make me happy. That's a biggie. But there's a lot of things in life a lot more things about Hillary that don't make me happy. A few that do. I enjoyed listening to her diatribe about Israel and the Israeli situation. I thought she was right on about that, about what's going on in the Gaza Strip and this, that, and the other thing.
So she's got a great handle on the international, politics. There's no question.
I know, except she has a war going on every 20 minutes, which she's more than likely to vote for, and Bernie doesn't. And
that's true. And he didn't vote for that war, and he knew better. And
right.
Frankly,
yes.
And nobody talks about how all of those how evidence was held back by Bush and Cheney. I don't understand how nobody talks about that. I don't understand why Obama did not prosecute those bastards. Sometimes
I don't understand why Nancy Pelosi didn't go for Bush when they won the House back. They could have just gone for his balls, and they didn't. And I don't understand that for the life of me, because those two, Bush, Cheney, and you could a few more, Rumsfeld or whoever the hell it was, it's war crimes. They said there were no weapons found. We found none? Okay. Now we'll bomb you because now we know you can't retaliate.
And he was told. He knew. I mean, there's no question about it. It's very disappointing.
Right.
And it's not for the good of the country. People need to be taken they need to show up and be accountable. They have to be accountable for the things that they do.
Yeah, and as horrible as it is to say, I think there's a really good possibility that there was some complicity there with 911. They needed something to get us into the war, just like FDR needed Pearl Harbor. And I'm not saying that it was all staged or he had all, but, things, inexplainable things, buildings tumbling that weren't hit, imploding, all these people taking off work, people in the know, this, that, and the other thing. What a country we live in. But, Mert, I can remember when they were doing the Bay of Pigs thing in '62 and the standoff with Cuba. Things weren't all that settled in the Cold War. We didn't have it. It wasn't exactly smooth back then, but now it seems particularly crazy for one reason or another.
Yeah, because the world's a lot smaller. That's why.
Yeah. Keep coming back, guys, individually and together, I hope. And this was great for me.
Good. Very nice.
Good for us, too.
Enjoyed it, Ralph.
Oh, beautiful. Again, Mert, triple header. You retire, 42 years. You move out of New York, and your daughter gets married.
Yep.
And,
yep.
Woo!
Yeah, so finally put the feet up for a while, and
absolutely.
Take it easy for a bit.
He looks great. He's nice and relaxed. You can see it on his face. He's relaxed. He's enjoying himself, and I'm glad. Congratulations, bro. Enjoy it.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
Yeah, you could be talking about either of you. You both living the life, and it's nice. Love you both.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
you too,
man.
Thanks for the good talk.
And please keep coming back.
Absolutely.
All right. See you guys later.
All right, Ralph.
Everybody out there, I'm going to end it the same way I always do. I'm going to implore everybody to keep your dreams wet, keep your humor dry. Don't always keep your kids out of recruiting stations on this day when Mert was on, and I'm joking. And keep your kids off the laps of clothes and wear dresses just to be on the safe side. Not all of them. you know. It's been in the papers, you know. Adios, everybody.